$13 billion. That's what the tournament is projected to generate across this 4-year cycle. Not from one match, not from one final. From 4 years of football, ending with the biggest World Cup ever staged. Daris watches the opening match from his couch. 48 teams, 104 games. The most expensive World Cup in history. He paid nothing to watch it. The broadcast came with a subscription he already had. He doesn't think about where $13 billion comes from. Nobody watching does. The money is designed to be invisible. It moves through the broadcast, through the jersey on a player's back, through a federation office that never appears on screen, and almost none of it looks like money while it's happening. There are 3 levels to this machine. The governing body at the top, the clubs and federations below it, and the players at the bottom, the ones actually playing the football. Daris is about to follow the money through all 3. At the very top sits an organization that doesn't play football. It owns football. More precisely, it owns the rights to the World Cup. Broadcasting, sponsorship, ticketing, hospitality, licensing. The football lasts 90 minutes. The organization monetizes everything around it for 4 years. Broadcasting alone is projected to exceed $4.2 billion this cycle, sold to networks across more than 200 territories. Each network buys the right to air the matches, then recoups that cost by selling advertising during them. The chain runs from the governing body to the broadcaster, to the advertiser, to the product on a shelf, and at no point does the viewer see the transaction happening. Sponsorship adds another $2.8 billion, a 37% increase from the last cycle. Global partners, including a state oil company, a technology manufacturer, and a prediction market platform whose entire business is people betting on outcomes, pay directly for the association. Not for a 30-second ad slot, for the brand itself, sitting next to the tournament's name in front of billions of viewers. Tickets and hospitality add close to $3 billion more, though not without controversy. Prices that started at $60 for a group stage seat climbed past $10,000 for the final. Dynamic pricing used for a World Cup for the first time, the same system that made headlines when concert tickets doubled while fans were still in the queue. So where does the $13 billion go? The governing body pays out $871 million to the 48 competing nations. That's the entire prize pool. $871 million sounds like a lot. It is less than 7% of what the tournament is projected to generate. The rest stays at the top. $871 million, split across 48 nations, based on how far they go. The winning team's federation receives $50 million. The runner-up receives $33 million. A team eliminated at the group stage still takes home $9 million for qualifying, for showing up. But here's what doesn't make the headlines. That $50 million doesn't go to the players. It goes to the national federation, the governing body of football in that country. A federation official, clipboard in hand, decides what happens to it next. Some federations pass 20 to 30% down to the players as bonuses. Others keep the majority for infrastructure, youth programs, operational costs. The split varies enormously, and the players rarely have a say in it. A federation can win $50 million and quietly allocate most of it elsewhere. The players who actually won the tournament see a bonus that is a fraction of what their performance generated, split across 26 players and a coaching staff. Because the $50 million never belonged to any one of them, it belonged to the federation. Separate from the prize pool entirely, there's a payment most fans have never heard of. When a player leaves his club to represent his country, the club doesn't release him out of patriotism. The club gets compensated. Legally, automatically. The governing body has allocated $355 million this cycle to pay clubs for releasing players, 70% more than the previous tournament. A club with 15 or more players spread across different national teams stands to collect tens of millions of dollars through this program alone. Not for winning anything, not for playing a single match, for lending. A club executive doesn't need to watch a single minute of the tournament to profit from it. He signs the release forms, and the payment arrives regardless of how far his players' countries advance. The club earns while the player plays. The club earns while the player recovers from injury. The club earns whether the national team wins or goes home in the group stage. The player at the center of it generates revenue for the governing body, for his club, and for his federation. 3 separate income streams, none of which is his personal bonus, all of which exist because he stepped onto a pitch. Now the players themselves, and this is where the numbers stop making sense. The 11 highest-paid players at this tournament collectively earned more over the past 12 months than the entire prize pool the governing body is distributing to 48 nations combined. At the very top, a player we'll call the icon. Roughly $300 million in income this year, the majority from his club contract, the rest from sponsorships. He commands several $1,000,000 for a single sponsored social media post, reaching hundreds of millions of followers. He isn't just a footballer anymore. He's a media platform that happens to play football. Beside him, the magician. Around $120 million a year, a billionaire by net worth. Tens of millions in endorsements on top of his salary. Winning a tournament doesn't just earn him a medal, it multiplies every commercial deal attached to his name within weeks. And the prodigy, the rising star. Tens of millions in salary, with endorsement value climbing every season he plays at this level. For players like these, the tournament bonus from the prize pool is barely a rounding error against what they already earn in a single year. But follow the story further down the squad list, to the underdog, a player from a nation that has never advanced this far. He earns a modest salary at a modest club back home. His federation's bonus for reaching the round of 16 is a fraction of what the icon makes from one Instagram post, and it is more money than the underdog has seen in his entire career combined. Same tournament, same pitch, same 90 minutes. Entirely different financial reality, decided almost entirely by where you were born and which federation cuts your check. There's one more layer that never makes the broadcast. Because this World Cup is being played across the United States, players are subject to American tax law, including a provision that applies to high earners working in specific states during specific events. Some states charge income tax above 13%. Others charge none at all. For a player like the icon, earning hundreds of millions annually, playing a single match in a high-tax state can trigger a tax claim on a prorated portion of his entire global income, not just his World Cup earnings, a slice of his club salary, a slice of his endorsement deals, calculated against the days he spent playing in that state. The tournament draw isn't just a sporting outcome for players at this level. It's a tax event. Which group you land in, which stadiums host your matches. These details, decided months in advance by a random draw, can be worth millions of dollars to the highest earners on the pitch. None of this appears on the broadcast graphic. The only thing visible is the score. Daris adds it up from his couch. The governing body projects $13 billion, pays out $871 million in prizes, less than 7% of what it takes in. The icon and players like him barely notice the difference. The tournament was never going to move their net worth. The underdog carries his bonus home like something that changes the shape of his life. The clubs collect tens of millions for doing exactly what they were legally required to do anyway. They earn whether their players' countries win or lose, whether anyone even remembers their names by the final. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, a federation official with a clipboard decides how much of $50 million actually reaches the players who earned it. Here's what's true at the same time. The football is real. The 90 minutes are real. The moment a ball crosses a line and a stadium of 80,000 people makes the exact same sound at the exact same instant, that's not manufactured. That feeling is the actual product underneath all $13 billion of revenue. Nobody fakes that. But the tournament built around that feeling has become something else entirely. A 4-year commercial cycle, a prize pool that represents a fraction of total revenue, a club compensation system that pays out regardless of results, a tax code that turns a random draw into a financial event, a gap between the highest earner on the pitch and the lowest that has nothing to do with how either of them actually played. Daris finishes watching the match. The broadcast cuts to a sponsor message before the highlights even start. He didn't pay anything to watch. He never does. That's not because it was free. It's because the cost was never going to be paid by the people watching. It was paid by the fans who couldn't afford the ticket, by the federations deciding how much to share, by the player whose bonus check was somebody else's rounding error. The game ends in 90 minutes. The business runs for 4 years. Only one of them was ever fully visible on screen.